Hey everyone, my name is Nelson DeWitt, and this is a Kickstarter's Guide to Kickstarter. We're looking at what it takes to successfully fund a creative project online. And today I am with Peter Derling. Is that how you pronounce it?
Daring. Yep.
And he was talking about his camera capture system, which is actually the second biggest project on Kickstarter. And so we're just going to be talking about what he did to kind of get the word out about his project and how he got it successfully funded, or overly successfully funded in this case. Uh, So why don't we start with just tell me a little bit about yourself and about the idea for this project and how it all kind of came together before you went on to Kickstarter.
Sure, sure. I was after school moved out to San Francisco and was a construction engineer building large buildings with a civil engineering background. I took a about 4 month hiatus in 2008, and it was on that trip where I was traveling with a Nikon D80 at the time and an 18 to 200, a pretty bulky camera and lens stuff. I was in these beautiful places. I had a backpack on me all the time, and I had this camera with me all the time. And it was, at one time the main point of why I was traveling and capturing that. It was my most enjoyable thing, but it was a constant pain. And it seemed clear to me that with this big rigid strap on the backpack, there should be a way to anchor my camera into that strap. So that was kind of the birth of the idea in 2008. I went back to being a construction engineer, did that for about 20 more months, finished another project, and but I was planning on leaving that after I received a bonus check in March of 2010. And I actually was leaving with the intention of pursuing a different mechanism that I'd patented. It was a much more involved invention. It was a regenerative brake system for electrified trains. It would have taken a massive undertaking, large amounts of funding, all that sort of thing. And I wanted to be autonomous. I wanted to be doing my own type of project. Very quickly realized that although the train braking was a neat idea, it's not something I was going to be able to do on my own without. It would be a 10-year project. So with the convincing of my girlfriend Ivy at the time, we decided to, or I decided that vetting out the idea of this capture camera clip system was a really good idea. So I started doing my design work. I started in Google SketchUp, of course, free, simple software. Not like it's not like SolidWorks. It's not like real mechanical engineer software. But started making that product, and all along, I suppose actually I'd first heard about Kickstarter from friends of mine who started telling me about, hey, have you heard about Kickstarter? It sounds like what you do would be a really good fit, really good fit. I started looking into it, and it was clear from looking at, I naturally I think everyone kind of goes to, okay, what are the most fun projects? And when you go to the most funded projects there, you see that there are these little, these neat, interesting kind of design products which tend to be the biggest winners on Kickstarter. So I was thinking right from the get-go that I had a really good formula for having a potentially successful product. I believed in my product for sure. And that pretty much that was always going to be my planned release. It finally ended up happening on May 2nd, but from December to May, it was my plan that, hey, I'm going to launch this thing on Kickstarter, no two ways about it. Now, one thing that's interesting to note is that when I was considering Kickstarter, the details, they seemed really murky, and I think that they are really murky. I think there is a conception out there that it's very difficult to get your project accepted by Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. And I'd heard terms like they accept 1 in 100 projects, things like that. And after I got accepted, I was still under that impression, and I thought I was 1 in 100 who got accepted. So I thought, oh my God, this is awesome. After my project started being successful, I went to Kickstarter headquarters and visited with them and told them about these things. And they're like, no, that's not true at all. As long as you fit the criteria and you don't break any of the simple rules that we've got, anyone can do a project. So that was kind of Kickstarter myth number 1 debunked. But yeah, that's kind of the at least the origins of how it came to be.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to be talking to you. One of the reasons is because I watched the video and it was just kind of really clear from the video, like how much fun you were having with the project and how much,
Mhm.
effort you had put into it. And it was just really cool to see, here's someone who has an idea that they believe in and they're just kind of making it happen. They're trying to launch their project and see what the world thinks. So you have this period of design, right?
Mhm.
And you get on the site. Then what were the next steps for you? How did you approach sort of the problem of how much to go for, how long to go
Mhm.
for, and types of rewards you'd be offering?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I think I'll talk about the reward. When I was filling out my Kickstarter application, I thought that it was very important that I make a dollar amount. I chose $10,000 correlate directly to a dollar amount that I needed to launch the project. In my case, I found that to be um, I could say very justifiably that $10,000 would have allowed me to pay for the per unit cost of 1,000 units, or something along those lines. It
Hmm.
turns out Kickstarter doesn't really care about that. They are um, they're indifferent to whatever your reasonings are for your money. It's not one of the criteria that they're um, concerned with. Now, are the backers concerned with what you're going to do with the money? Probably, yes. But you'll see that I chose 10,000 and ended up, over 350,000. I wasn't. I was hoping to make a lot more than $10,000 because for a product, it's different than for an art project, for cutting an album, for making a documentary. It's different than that. This is very much in a early stage sales platform. Um, it's not a very well-oiled sales platform in that there's a lot of legwork that the Kickstarter that as the Kickstarter project owner need to do. It doesn't really set up all that well for the fulfillment and everything. Um, but it is an excellent sales and marketing platform and way to get sales before you've actually got a product that's ready to be out
Yeah.
there.
Well, I actually kind of want to just pause for a second because I think you,
Mm-hmm.
you make a good point. And as you mentioned before, sort of the Kickstarter lore, like for this project, I've been doing a lot of research and looking at other people's projects and what they post. And I think there's almost this misconception that people think that Kickstarter is this platform that is going to get you, all this big audience and all that kind of stuff. And people sort of post their projects up there with this
Right,
expectation that
right.
people are going to show up. Mm.
And absolutely not the case. So I, just like every other Kickstarter backer out there, I would presume, was I was well, I shouldn't say every other one because some of them they do tend to pick and advertise, but Kickstarter, the Kickstarter website almost never advertised the capture camera clip system. They never put it on the front page. In fact, and this was a bit vexing to me, they deliberately removed it from the popular this week list, which is very strange to me and actually something that I have not received an answer that satisfied me from Kickstarter. They never explained that reason. Um, Basically, the Kickstarter they have a recommended this week and then they have a popular this week. Popular this week is intended to be an algorithmic um, listing of what are people checking out. And my project should have been on the list according to the algorithm, but they actually removed it. Their answer to me was, "It doesn't make a difference. We swear it doesn't make a difference. We promise it doesn't make a difference." Since it never got up there, I don't really know if it makes a difference or not. But the fact of the matter is, it is from other websites feeding in. It is from the links on Facebook web pages, from Twitter posts. Um, by far and away, it was Gizmodo, um, and Cool Material, and all of these big blogs which picked it up and ran with it, which got me the traffic. It's definitely not coming from Kickstarter internally. It,
Yeah, that's something that I've seen a lot of. if you sort of reverse engineer it and you look at kind of the stats of where you're getting traffic from. For my own project, it was Facebook, it was
Hmm.
email, it was these other things,
Hmm.
and just like yourself, my project wasn't promoted or anything like that. This current project is interesting because a lot of the people that have backed it are all Kickstarters or people who have been on the site before, and for the most
Hmm.
part have backed more than one project. So that was kind of interesting to see that
That is interesting.
so I think there is a small percentage of people, but yeah, going back to that misconception, I don't think Kickstarter's it doesn't aggregate, all the thing. It doesn't, except for maybe their newsletter, it doesn't really blast the Kickstarter community with like check out this project or check out that. So
Right.
it's really on you to find that audience,
It
and
is.
so
It is.
that's kind of my next sort of question is how did you find the audience? Who did you think it would be? And how much time did you put in sort of lead time before the project to work on building that audience?
As far, you know what, you the, as far as lead time, virtually none. In that, here's what I did. I prepared an email, which was a several paragraph email to, and I put it to pretty much everyone who, Gmail takes in addresses when you send out an email, and I sent it to about 1,000 people, that were friends, coworkers, or former coworkers, people I'd forgotten about, and I just kind of unabashedly sent it out there with a link. And these are undoubtedly my first 100 backers. About 75 of them were friends of mine. So blast to those 1,000 people. I put it on my Facebook page. I created a uh, um, let's see here. I sent a message to all of my Facebook friends, um, and through those two forms of communication, and just begging everyone to put that on their Facebook wall, it was amazing how quickly, even within the first day, random people started getting it. They were basically all branching off from that email. Like the email was great for direct sales, but Facebook was so much more effective for people putting it on their wall, seeing what's
For
this,
for
and then
spreading,
people
right?
clicking from there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, and then the Facebook likes kept on happening, um, in droves. I think there's maybe 12 or 13,000 Facebook likes right now. So each time, oh, hello, oh, there we go. I'm back. Okay, okay. Hey, did you feel, Nelson? Did you feel that? Did you feel that earthquake?
All right, we're back.
Okay.
Yep.
Listen, I'm curious. I just got a message from a friend of mine in New York City who's saying that there was an earthquake on the East Coast and that he felt it in New York.
Oh wow.
Do you
I
feel it?
didn't feel anything here. No.
Okay, interesting. Um, wow. We'll continue. I'm sorry. Your last question.
Oh, I was just say, how much lead time did you go
Uh,
into, and we were kind of talking about, how much preparation. So you sent out this email to about 1,000 people, everyone you knew, and then that started to get tractions and likes
mhm,
and that kind of
mhm.
thing.
And then
Uh, yeah.
it was on day 1.5 or maybe 2.5. I can't remember that. I think it was on day 1.5 that there was a blog called Petapixel that had picked it up. I don't know if they were trolling Kickstarter. I have no idea how that happened. Um, few other blogs picked it up from there, and it started this little snowball effect. And then on day 2.5, Gizmodo picked it up, and all of a sudden, um, there were 70,000 views of the video that I had on Vimeo, and people were seeing the Vimeo video because, ooh, I guess that's an important thing to note. I made sure to make the video that I had on Kickstarter available on Vimeo so that all sorts of other people could embed it into their blogs. So I did put kind of together a media package which allowed people to take the pictures and get it out of their own website. So that is an important thing to do. Let's see here. Once Gizmodo hit, that opened up the can of worms, and there was this big boom, and it kind of, it became a hit. It would go up, and then it would just kind of peter out, like I say.
Yeah. Do you know what happened on, I think it's June 21st? Because that was an explosion in traffic for you. That was...
June 21st.
I think that was even bigger than Gizmodo.
Let's see here. I think June 21st was... yes, it was. That was Fred Wilson, who writes a blog called AVC. He's a venture capitalist from New York who I think is invested in Kickstarter, in Foursquare, in Twitter. He's basically got 10 winners behind him, and he so excuse me. There's an earthquake in New York. Like I said, my friend is making me laugh on account of that. That blast from Fred Wilson, I woke up that morning, and basically turned into a $12,000 day, and sort of the fallout from that probably attributed to about $25,000 in additional sales. And this was a Twitter post that he had created, and that made all the difference in the world. That was kind of the first time that I witnessed the power of Twitter, because here's a guy with approximately, I think, 200,000 followers. And previously, I really had, I didn't know enough about the Twitter sphere, and so I never really pursued it. But I saw instantly how powerful that could be. So
I guess the obvious question, or that I think a lot of people may ask, and it's sort of a trick question, and I'm interested to see what the answer is. But how do you get someone like Fred Wilson to notice your project? You know, how do you get these big name people?
I'm not going to call it dumb luck, although I directly had nothing to do with it. It was the internet at large passing it along. I think he had gotten it passed from one of his associates at his VC firm. And I imagine, you know, at that time, so many people in the active internet world had kind of seen it, that it was a foregone conclusion that eventually he was gonna come across it because he's so active. Why he picked it up is he labeled the blast inspiration, and I was really humbled by what he had written about the product and the project, and kind of related to the spirit of, you know, American entrepreneurship and all of these really wonderful and good things that are associated with this. And it was probably just because it was apparent that this was just me kind of working, taking a chance, quitting my job, spending a year trying to develop something, and genuinely pouring my heart into it, and frankly cranking out what appeared to folks to be a really good product.
Yeah. Speaking of really good products, just to jump in here for a second, we have someone in the audience who says, "I love my capture." So yeah.
All right.
So they're watching, and apparently people really, you know, like, yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Kind of as an outsider, as someone who's kind of like looking at these projects, trying to just figure out, you know, what makes them tick. I think one of the things that you definitely had going for you was, you know, you put so much time into developing this product. You had a prototype, you had a really compelling story, and you could sort of visually see how excited you were to be on
Hmm.
Kickstarter to do this
Hmm.
project. And I think all those things really kind of helped your story, and people.
And that excitement didn't just come because I was on Kickstarter. That excitement came because there was a 12-month design process, and not one prototype, but basically 12. And I mean, constant every single day. Every every shower I took was a 20-minute thought session about, okay, what changes am I going to make Gizmo today? And by the time I launched on Kickstarter, I felt like I had really done the work to let this be a great product, not just a good product, but a great product. I didn't feel like I could do it any better. For what I was trying to achieve, I feel like I had thought of everything. Have I thought of everything? Probably not, but but so far with the thousands of questions that I've gotten from Kickstarter backers, for the most part, it seems like I have at least thought of and considered certain things. If I made the right decisions every time, probably not again, but I think I made some good decisions, and the output was a really solid product, and that's where my excitement came from.
Yeah. I think one of the misconceptions uh, people have, just based on what I've seen, is um, they are putting ideas up there, or half baked ideas, or not even half baked, but
Hmm.
uh, not to pick on any one industry, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But like, for example, funding a CD, people are like, fund my album, without
Hmm.
showing the music, or why it's important to you, and sharing that story. And so it's very hard
Hmm.
for me, or for anyone really, to just kind of fall on a project, instantly fall in love, and say, okay, here's my money. And the more that you can do to take it as far as you can before you do the Kickstarter, which is what I think you did
Hmm.
very, very well. As you said, you put in all this lead time work, and basically Kickstarter was your marketing in some sense,
It was my
or it was.
launch. It was
Yeah,
my product launch. It really
yeah,
was, you know, and it was a product launch that I got to do um, perhaps 2 to 3 months before I would have tried to launch my product um, through traditional outlets. I would have done the same thing, but it would have taken me, if I were lucky, a year or two to get the kind of exposure and notoriety that the product has got.
yeah. So let me see. So did you have any, like, how did you decide on how long to run it? And yeah, I think that's because the big three people are trying to figure out is how much, how long, and what the rewards are. And you talked
Sure.
about the other two. So
So yeah, let me kind of break more into the strategy briefly. How much did it cost? Well, that was a function of what is my cost, um, and what are people going to be willing to pay. Briefly, I'd like to separate what my type of Kickstarter project was um, from a lot of the other kind, which are, you know, mine is behaves like a purchase in a lot of ways. It's kind of like a soft purchase. It's a purchase with forgiveness from the crowd of purchasers if things aren't perfect. Versus the the more artistic ones, people are oftentimes trying to um, buy out of, or get people to commit their money out of a sense of goodwill, not not a return on their investment, rather the return is the goodwill. So with my getting to that $50 that I chose for a unit specifically, that was where I could make enough money to um, make it a profitable venture and let it serve for my business's expansion. And it was a dollar amount that I thought that a large amount of people would be willing to part with, or kind of take that chance. I think the product is worth, as it's priced right now at $79.99. It's obviously, I think the product is worth more than that, and so does the community, because a lot of people have still been buying them. They've been selling on eBay for more than $80. So, um, but that $50 price was, I just basically, that was my time to say, well, I didn't think that enough people would jump at $80 at a product that is unproven. So for an unproven product, you've got to be willing to give it below market rate. But you gotta be able to protect your own profit there and make sure that it's not a money losing venture. How long, the duration should be carefully thought about. Um, Basically, what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's long enough where you can be able to um, fulfill on the back end. Fulfillment is a monster problem if you have a big, if you have a large backership like I had. Fulfillment is a major operation. I mean, shipping 6,000 packages accurately is hard, especially when Kickstarter is not very well set up to. Um, I chose 75 days because, for one, that's how long I needed to manufacture my product in large enough quantities, and also I knew that I was going to be having a baby right smack dab in the middle of that, and I knew that leading up to it and in the immediate weeks after, it was going to be just too hectic. It's been pretty hectic as is, but that also contributed to the duration that I chose. It is true that there's a blog post that Kickstarter has put out actually, which shows a graph, which shows the if this is your time. I don't know if my finger graph will do anything here, but basically at the beginning and the end, you've got these major spikes, and in the middle you'll have these lags. Which basically you'll have a base in the middle. My base was $2,000 to $4,000 per day, which was awesome. And if I would have had a 100-day duration instead of a 25-day duration, I think we could have had $2,000 to $4,000 continue for each of those days, and I still would have had the spikes at the end. That might not be true, you know, for if it's too long, 100 days. I mean, 90 days is the longest that they allow, anyways. People will kind of lose interest and they might not believe in it. So that's why Kickstarter specifically encourages a short duration.
Yeah.
But I found
actually,
that when you have that.
well, I was just going to say, I think actually they changed it. It's only 60 days now is the max. I have to look that up for sure. But it was really fascinating in my own project, which was sort of one, you know, an artistic, doing a documentary film about my family story, and all the action came in the last 7 days. You know, so the really fascinating thing about my project was that a week before we were done, you know, we went for $15,000, and I wasn't even 30% funded, right? With a week left. So we had $9,000 in a week to close it, and we made it. And you know, the graph just goes, you know, it takes off because all these people, all the friends who have heard about it for, you know, the past 2 months, finally decide to jump on board and help you out, you know.
Right.
But you know, like using that to your advantage and you know, kind of I think that's the advantage of Kickstarter, is it sort of forces the issue. You know, like you have so many days, and then even after it's funded on a project like yours, it's almost like, well, if I don't order it now, I'm going to pay more later. You know. Or,
Right. Well, that's they set up, and projects like mine and yours set up very differently in that you are actually using that goal of, like, you know, get me to 10,000, get me to $20,000, help this project become a reality. Whereas for mine and ones like the Glyph, it's basically just existing as this wonderful pre-sale platform. And so I think that my advice would be longer duration for products that where you need to buy that time to allow these pre-sales to happen, and to build your product. And then if you're doing a kind of a carrot-based project where you've got that $20,000 carrot, you want to get to a shorter duration, probably makes sense.
So you're, like I said earlier, one of the things that I loved about your project was the video that you put out. You know,
Hmm.
I just it was something that you really connect to. You get to see your passion, how excited you are.
Hmm.
So how much time did you put into that aspect? You know, like telling your story,
Hmm.
doing the video, writing the description. You know, sort of all the story elements that go into that
Yeah,
backer page.
it was extremely important. And I'm not a filmmaker. I do like photography, um, and I like film. So maybe those things help. But really, with the I feel like the message, kind of the written copy that I put together, was I ran it by some really good people who I think their skill. This is both my former roommate Sophie Sharp and my girlfriend Ivy. They're excellent communicators, and they help me just continue to parse it down and boil it down, more concise, more instant. You've got, if you're lucky, the attention span of a citizen in today's world, if you get 2 minutes, that's amazing. My video is actually a little bit longer than that. It's closer to 3 minutes, and they beg me to make it shorter, shorter, shorter. I was always fighting for longer. I think that as a creator, we've got so much to tell. We've been in this for a year, and we want to be like, but wait a second, doesn't everyone want to hear about, uh, how hard this was for me? And it turns out that no, people have such a short attention span, and so the more you can boil that down and just get to the real goods, the crack of that cocaine, you know, that is when um, you're going to have a really successful type of message being delivered. And you can convey your excitement and your passion and your hard work in that short amount of time. But how many 6-minute Kickstarter videos do people get to the end of? I would guess not that many. Yeah. So and then as far as like the actual element of putting the video together, I had a really I was going to do it myself with my own tripod setup, and I work in this building where there's a lot of small companies and a few photography studios, and I went upstairs to one of the photography studios to borrow. I was going to borrow some white paper as a backdrop, and they said, "Why don't you just shoot it here? We'll give you the space for free." This was a tremendous, tremendous help, and they had their interns film it. So all of a sudden, I had this Canon 5D Mark II shooting 1080 video on me, with professional mics, and that made a huge difference. I mean, how many Steve Jobs types of jobs, or not jabs, that kind of comparisons that I get out there. It was an unintended, but really, I think that greatly added to people believing in the product.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, one of the maybe one of the most underestimated elements is story, I think. You know, in these
Hmm.
Kickstarter projects, and that you can look at um, my sort of theory at the moment is you either have like a really amazing idea or you have a really good story, and like there's a
Yep.
balance between the two. You know, like there's one of the top projects right now is these HD recording glasses. You know,
Nice. Yeah.
and their video is okay, it's interesting, but I
Hmm.
think the idea is like really interesting,
Yeah.
and people are like, all right,
That's a product. Yeah.
I'll throw that give money to that to see them. And then you have other
Hmm.
projects that have a really compelling story, and you know what they're doing is could be simple, you know,
Hmm.
whether it's making
Hmm.
a CD or photos or whatever, but the way that they tell it and the way that they convey their passion is so interesting and compelling that
Hmm.
people are just like, yes, you know, like I saw
Yep.
this one kid who's trying to do a video game, you know, he's trying to make his first video game or whatever, and you just watch him
Hmm.
and you can see like here's this kid who wants a chance to try and make a video game and make something that's going to reach out and touch people, and you
Hmm.
can't help but feel like I got to back that kid, you
Yep.
know.
Yep. I remember that one. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It is. It is. You For a successful Kickstarter, you need either one. You either need a great product or you need a great story. And if you have both, um, that will that will trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you were able to accomplish in yours. You know, you had a product that you put a lot of time into and a really compelling story behind it.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, so you launched the Kickstarter campaign, you sent out the email, and was that it? Did you just sit back and kind of, wait for the internet to show up, or what else
Uh,
did you do?
the internet showed up so fast that I couldn't even catch up. All I tried to do, I was left trying to manage the internet because it was going wild, and um, and that's a result of the product, I think, itself. Um, and some people were getting kind of the wrong idea about how to use the product right off the bat, and so I kind of rushed to create these videos, which clarified what they were going for, and those ended up being videos like I watched 15,000 times on Vimeo. Um, so in answer to the question, yeah, kind of. And then each time I decided to try to launch a little more of a campaign, like for instance, when I finally got a Peak Design web or Facebook page, there was a bump there. Uh, when I reached out to, um, trying to think of any blogs I actually reached out to. I worked, for instance, with like Geek Beat TV to try to get bolster that. And each time I do a little campaign, you could definitely see a little bit of an uptick, a jump in traffic. It's amazing um, how consistent. Um, you have 100 views, and how many of those people get converted. That conversion rate is very, very consistent. That tells me that that conversion rate is a product of the product and the story itself, like the Kickstarter video, getting people to that, um, you know, get, getting the number of people to click in and take a look. Um, it was the internet itself. It was just wildfire.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you brought up the idea of the conversion rate because that's something I'm trying to work on. Yes, I'm here. Anyway, the one of the things I'm looking at is if you use that short link to send out to people, which is just a Bitly link, and then so you can
Hmm.
append a plus at the end, and you can see your stats, so you can see where the traffic is coming
Is
from.
that
And
so?
yep, so that's
Heavens.
that's one of the things that I found. So that's why I asked you about June 21st or whatever, because I can take your short link and see exactly where the pop in traffic was, you know, and see where that's coming in. So.
It's. Go ahead. I was
Um,
just going to say, like, if you need any more evidence that I am not an expert on, I hope I'm acquiring some skills as we speak, but um, I wasn't an expert on internet marketing by any means. But sorry, to your point, to continue.
No, so what I was going to say is like if you take that short link and you look at the stats, you can kind of get a conversion rate. If you look at, all right, how many clicks is this thing going? And then you say, how many backers do I have? And for my first project, it was about 10%, right? So I used the only link that I sent out to people was that short link. I did not, and I told my parents and whoever else was sending it, use that short link because I can track that. I can
Mm-hmm.
figure out where it's coming from and where it's going. And the similar things happening with my current project where there's this 10, 11% rate. And if you look at even the top, the TikTok, I think their conversion rate was like 22%, which is like ridiculous, right?
Wow.
Um, but I think it's very interesting and it kind of helps you manage. Like right now, I'm looking at the current project that I'm working on and saying, all right, so 10% conversion rate, about $15 per person that they're donating to the or pledging to this project, and then so I need 15 more backers to finish the project. Like you
Hmm.
can kind of reverse engineer it from that. And then you start to think about where do I, who do I reach out to? How do I get this out there? And I think it helps. Here's a thought for you, and you don't need to have like a right or wrong answer, but what do you feel about sort of the ask portion of the project? I see some people saying, please support me, donate,
Hmm.
today, or others who kind of say, you'll be pre-ordering.
Hmm.
what's your view on sort of that ask for support?
Nothing wrong with asking for support. It, you think that it, like, again, depending on which type of Kickstarter project you're doing, a product versus an art thing, it you're going to have it's going to serve different purposes. For me, for the ask, maybe what that did was people who, to put it in economic terms, would have felt comfortable donating $40. Maybe it pushed them over the edge and said, I'll take a crack at this. I'll go for $50. So nothing wrong, and you should be asking. You're asking to be funded. So it's not a problem at all.
Yeah. All right, so I want to sort of ask you one question, and then I guess we'll open it up. We have about 10 people viewing, so if anyone has questions, they can, go to the chat and just shoot them out there, and we'll take those.
Sure.
So, my last question that I've been kind of asking everyone is like, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in doing a Kickstarter project? And it can be about anything you want.
The advice that I would give, um, whatever your idea is, it's just try to take it to the fullest extent possible. Think it out as much as you possibly can. Try to think about your market out there and make it appeal to as many people as possible. And that's kind of marketing 101. So that probably doesn't sound like too brilliant of advice. But once you've done the best job you can of that, when you launch your Kickstarter, do it with passion and be there. Be there for your backers. Be so involved and so invested, and make it clear to everyone who's out there paying attention that this is your vitality that you're exhibiting here. I think that you will get this kind of goodwill support. The goodwill support that comes from that is really invaluable, because what you create, instead of funders, is you create disciples who are there to follow you and truly want you to succeed. And it's a really, really, I've got some chills saying it right now, because the feeling that I get from those backers out there, so many of them who give that real encouragement, it will propel you. It will.
Yeah, and you got a couple watching right now.
That's incredible. That's
the,
just
the one person,
again mind blowing.
yeah, the one person who said that they love the capture is saying, I'm a Boy Scout and I use it whenever I hike on trails, and I've been looking for something where I didn't have to like tie it around my neck. So I think you really it shows how much work and time that you put into it, and maybe that's one of the biggest Kickstarter lures is that you just sort of people think you can just put something out there and it just takes off. And I think your project really demonstrates how much forethought you put into it, and that Kickstarter was just this launch mechanism, and it wasn't really it wasn't a half-baked idea.
Right.
It was a finished sort of product.
Right. Sure, tried hard.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So were there questions out there that have come in? Any of them?
No, not yet. Not all right. Here we go.
Okay.
Will you be prepared to launch this at a trade show by next year? One question.
Will I be prepared to? I'm sorry, prepared to launch what?
To launch the product at, say, a trade show by sometime in the
Absolutely.
next year.
Yeah. A couple people have kind of. I haven't been in the photography business nearly as much as so many of my backers out there. They're by far and away experts compared to me. And I've heard of a trade show coming up in New Orleans, I think, which is either in October or December, and another one in New York, which is also in October or December. I can't remember which is which. I absolutely want to be at these. In the sense that I'm going to have inventory built up to be able to supply retailers. Yes, I will be ready for trade shows. However, I think that there's an element of kind of trade show strategy, both in like booth design and information dissemination, that I'm just kind of starting to work with. I've taken on a longtime friend of mine. His name is Adam Saraceno, and he is beginning to help out on a more regular, closer to full-time basis, and this might be one of the aspects that he ends up helping with. But I'll also be soliciting advice from that community of backers out there. That's another great thing, by the way, Nelson, is that I've got this 5,258 people who each one of these people has an area of expertise. And when I have a question, I mean, I'm getting brilliant responses and answers in droves from experts in their field. So, along with trade shows, if this backer has information about which ones that I should go to, I'm listening to them first, and then I'll go and do my homework just to make sure it all checks out.
Yeah.
So that was long-winded, as most of my answers are, but
No,
thank
it
you for
was
the
good.
question.
Actually, because we have a little more time here, I'm just sort of wondering what next. So you have this really great Kickstarter project. You seem like you have a solid base of people who love your product and love what you're doing. What are your plans going forward?
Well, my time is so torn right now between correctly finishing off the fulfillment and handling a few backers out there who still haven't gotten their product. I haven't forgotten about you, I promise. Um, but ramping up my production, we're kind of going at full tilt right now. We're making about between 200 and 220 units per day. Uh, Trying to build up an inventory because I've got a list of 70 people or companies, entities really, who are wanting to distribute capture. And I'm going to be careful in my selection of who those distributors are. But basically, I want to get the capture camera clip system out into the world en masse so that it becomes a system. Because there are so many other great products which kind of can follow directly from it. Capture leash, for instance, a utility plate. All of these things are under development. I'm working on contracting other designers to make them come to fruition because Capture itself was, a 12-month design, sourcing, prototyping, uh, investment, and all future accessories are going to require the same amount of attention, and I can no longer devote that. So um, I'm more just kind of leading those processes from above and having teams really vet out the details. So worldwide domination is the answer to your question.
Awesome. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I mean, yeah, and I'm actually, I'm a photographer as well. Been more of a hobby over the years, but now I'm starting to kind of take it more seriously. And it looks like a really neat idea. Like I've tried a number of different apps, as you say, in the video, and no, I'm interested to maybe try it someday with the, because I think it's a really compelling idea. You have this space here, clip it on, and
Hmm.
that's one of the things that I love about shooting without straps or anything. You're just holding the camera, and that's it.
Right, right. I know it is. It feels a lot more pure. It does.
Yeah. Well, great. Let me see. So I don't see any other questions out there. So unless you have anything else to add, I think we're about done.
Okay, great. Well, Nelson, I wish you luck. I will. I'll mention it in my next updater, or in my next update. A lot of people have asked me to mention their things in updates, and for the most part, just because there's been so many acts, and I don't want to have to choose. But maybe I'm going to try to aggregate all those and actually get a good mention out there. And we hope to push your project past its goal. I think that there were 13 days to go. In fact, without question, yours is going to make it. But it'd be great to get you a little bit extra money so you can take this further and uh, and continue to flesh out all your good ideas.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. It is interesting having looked at so many projects now. You sort of do get a sense, and what's just been fascinating on a personal level is like I really put a lot of work into designing this as something that you could look at, understand, and then choose to back if you wish.
Hmm.
And I really have done very little work at kind of getting the word out there. And as you say, you do hit these lulls, and then it's, how do I kind of get the word out. And I thought doing these interviews would not only help get the information out there, but sort of bring attention to the project, because I think it is important. And as I say in the video, we as creative people, this is important stuff. This is our life. This is what we want to share with the world. So the worst thing is to like put something out there and then no one backs your project, right?
Right.
So if you can think through it a little more and approach it in a way that it's going to be successful, that's really what I'm hoping to get out of this, to help people with that.
Cool.
So, awesome.
Cool.
Well, thanks again, and I will be
You're
in touch.
welcome. And thank you, Nelson. Take care, okay?
All right. See you.